Hello, dear friends. We are living in a sacred time, and we must rise to the occasion. Opinion piece, shift in power, regime change, structural collapse, crisis of credibility, transition of models, cause of the slowness. This rise is not smooth. Disintegration of the system, dismantling of the old order. Let's start. The old central banking system is being transformed. The old global power bloc, which sustains the current financial order, is entering a phase of a structural breakdown. With the current geopolitical fracture, Davos is losing its capacity for consensus and is unable to impose its narrative unanimously, which is interpreted as the decline of a globalization project. Eliminating central bank is a position defended by figures like Ron Paul in his book and the Fed. After 2012, the negative infrastructure of the subtle plane was destroyed, but the edge field remains a dense mix of 8 billion antagonistic energy beings. This enormous disorder is one of the reasons why the transformation and transition are so slow. The central banking system has been the pillar of the order based on debt, controlled inflation, and the dollar as a reserve currency, with former independence but aligned with the geopolitical interests of the great powers. This dismantling can be interpreted as a crisis of credibility regarding the independence of central banks, as well as sustainable debt pressure, persistent inflation, and geopolitical shocks that are forcing a redefinition of their roles. This dismantling is linked to the idea of a possible monetary reset, with a paradigm shift in how money is created, debt is managed, and financial power is distributed, in which the old bloc of central bank loses its monopoly to new actors, such as emerging powers and parallel payment systems. A gradual reconfiguration of the system is observed, not a programmed and baseball collapse. Teardowns. The old world is the current structure, according to Ariel. Behind closed doors, intelligence factions aligned with elements of the coalition have dismantled key nodes of the dark side since 2017. The coordinated takedowns of the networks linked to the elite circles, the confiscation of assets in tax havens, and the silent neutralization of implicated officials have shifted momentum. Informants described layered operations, financial warfare using quantum systems that freeze accounts of shadowy budgets, cyber intrusions that expose classified blackmail files, and kinetic actions in plural against underground facilities. This isn't cinematic heroism. It is a methodical war of attrition against a hydra that has fed on human suffering for centuries. Positive technology is the way out. Elon Musk's ecosystem, Neuralink, Optimus Gen 3, and the Starlink constellation forms the backbone of a leap toward post-scarcity. Optimus robots evolved from factory helpers to companions capable of intuitively reflecting emotions, managing tedious tasks so that humans can reclaim their creative sovereignty. Starlink blankets the planet with an unfiltered bandwidth, ending information carols and enabling peer-to-peer knowledge transfer. This ascension is not smooth. Entities dedicated to maintaining humanity as archontic forces of energy carol, described in Gnostic texts like the Nag Hammadi Library, or exopolitical analysts like Dr. Michael Salla, detail negative alliances with dark side factions that fought to maintain the 3D quarantine. White things, or bizarre things. Why is Starlink internet access banned in Antarctica? The plan to save the world is much bigger than most people can imagine or accept, according to the Storm Rider. The Pleiadians call Lucifer the Sirius Opisceglio the greatest liar on earth because successfully deceived humans into believing he was God. No human being could have managed to install the control systems necessary to manage every aspect of our lives. We are being controlled by a machine. It is time we learned to use our innate electrical power. Curious. Weather alarmists are often wrong, but they never doubt. Real images of Venus show something is wrong with the planet. The world's leading expert on Sumerians reveals that we got everything wrong, in quotes. Humanoid robots are getting brains as fear about their use grow. Elon Musk used SpaceX to rescue XAI. SpaceX prioritizes lunar city over Mars project, says Musk. China has developed the first compact high-power microwave weapon against Starlink satellite in low orbit. In 2017, archaeologists discovered a large system of walls in the Altai Mountains of southern Siberia. This structure is known as the Great Wall of Siberia. Economy. Gold is being used as currency again in the US. The World Economic Forum is being Epsteinized from Epstein. X22 report. The new economic system is ready if you look beyond the headlines. The historic surge in silver is overwhelming the physical infrastructure and creating an unprecedented stagnation, according to Mike Adams. USA. Iran forces the US Navy to withdraw, according to Pepe Escobar. Documents show that President Trump was an Epstein whistleblower. Experts say President Trump has a speech ready that will reveal decades of UFO secrets. The US is pushing so many regime change agendas that it's hard to keep up, according to Caitlin Johnstone. UVC, the FDA approved eye drops for presbyopia. Buddhist monks complete a peace walk from Texas to Washington. Middle East. An investigation denounces the use of forbidden weapons in Gaza. Iran says it is willing to undergo any verification of its nuclear program. Europe. Much of Western Europe is experiencing its longest period of rainfall since 1831. France faces competition from Germany and Italy in the search for an economic boost. Europe lost 3.8 million tons of Kazakh crude oil due to attacks in the Black Sea. Europe has some of the strictest gun laws in the world, but it is also one of the largest producers and exporters. Spain. The military emergency unit is activated in Ciudad Real due to Storm Niels. 1,500 farmers and 348 tractors protest in Madrid against the Common Agricultural Policy. Ayuso will award the Medal of Madrid to the US as the leading lighthouse of the free world, in quotes. America. Mexico will send another shipment of humanitarian aid to Cuba. Russia is preparing another oil shipment for Cuba. China promises support for Cuba in the face of the oil blockade. The Cuban exile community is urging Trump to adopt a different approach than the one used for Venezuela. The US announces $6 million in humanitarian aid for Cuba as the regime struggles to provide food and energy. The famous phrase, "que chingue a su madre el América," in quotes, is a typical Mexican social chant used by fans to insult the team, Club America, or Club America Club. The US Secretary of Energy arrives in Caracas to boost the Venezuelan oil industry. Petro says Colombia will start buying cheaper Venezuelan gas. The Argentine Senate approves a labor reform bill. The drop in the price of the dollar in Argentina gives the government a breather, says an analyst. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.